Hi guys, how are you? How are you feeling? Anxious? Stressed? Okay? Relaxed? Bored? Looking forward to Christmas? Knackered? Most of us are knackered. There's just this feeling of malaise among the general population who are, after this year and with very little hope in sight, just really quite tired. I can guarantee though that you're feeling something, and that's what the point of today's video is. We're going to talk about those big feelings, the overwhelming ones, the ones that overcome any kind of reticence that you might have and overwhelm you. You might cry, you might shout, you might have a meltdown, you might rage, you might break something, you might run, you might drink. There's all sorts of ways that we deal with those emotions, but universally, particularly in this country, we tend to deal with them badly. The messy feelings, the ones we don't need to acknowledge or want to know are there. The reason that we're having this video this week is because I had one of those moments last weekend. Things are tough. They've been tough in my house for a long time, and that came to a head last weekend, and my emotions got very messy indeed. And I was so embarrassed that some people in my life had seen that mess that I genuinely considered cutting them off rather than forcing them to acknowledge the awfulness of my perfectly reasonable emotions, even if they were big and ugly, ever again. And I had to question myself, why? Why was I so upset with that? When I was a younger woman, I had a number of challenges. I have ADHD, and I was very often very reactive. And there was a period of my life in my late teens where I was very often messy emotionally. And I was judged for that. And I still carry some shame around that. I think we all do. And I think it's important that we start to recognize that. So the way that I was going to try and explain this to you guys is, think of it a bit like this. Everyone, universally, even the neatest people you know, has one thing in their house that they don't want everybody to see. 9 times out of 10, even the really neat ones, it might just be socks. Everyone has socks, ridiculous socks, pairs, unpairs of socks. So you put them in the wash, they're together, somewhere in the washing machine, the laundry monster eats them, they come out on their own. And you put them in a bag or in a box in my house, a crate full of uneven, unpaired socks. And you pair them up occasionally. You might do it at the time, you might do it later on, you might do it once a year like me. But then you have this pile of odd socks. And rather than throw them away, you think eventually these will find a pair. So I'll keep them for now. They'll be useful for something. I'm not just going to throw the socks away, because you can guarantee the second I throw the socks away, I'm going to find the other pair to the sock. So we build up this mountain of odd socks that we don't need, that we don't really want to deal with, and we certainly don't want other people to know about, but we can't get rid of because we're just a bit worried about the consequences if we do. And when our big emotions overwhelm us, a bit like those socks, it's a bit like taking your bag of uneven socks, and instead of hiding it when your mates come round and throwing something over it or putting it under a desk so everything looks perfect, you're throwing it in front of them like messily, like, here's a pink one and a stripy one and a green one. Look at all the odd socks overwhelming me. And your friends might be looking at you going, wow, that's a lot of odd socks. That's a lot of odd socks. And then they leave and you're like, why did I show them my socks? I don't want them to see my socks. But we all have socks. We all have odd socks. We all have lots and lots of odd socks lurking around, or something like it. So what can you do? You need to look for support. You need to reframe the idea of your big emotions, your socks, in your head. So, do you need to have a good old clear out of your socks? Do you just need to accept that they're gone and that's it? And put them all in a bin bag, and take them to the bin and throw them away? You need to face the fact that they're there and get rid of them. And then they're gone. Very often, the more we try to hide a problem, the more we try to cover it up, the more we try to say, I'll deal with that later, it weighs on us. And then eventually, you can't deal with it anymore. By facing that you have a problem that is causing you to feel messy, to behave messily, you tackle it. And even if that's hard and painful and it hurts, once it's done, and you don't have to do it again until the next time. So that's one way of looking at it. You could just think of the socks in a different way. Socks are quite soft. If you've got more and more socks piling up, and you don't know how to deal with them right now, don't just lie on them, have a little sleep. Stop it. Stop the world and just do what you need to for a little bit. Ignore the issue and sink in to that feeling of tiredness and struggle and your own sense of challenge with it. Could you turn the socks into something else? Socks make very good puppets. Now, there's only so many puppets we all need, but in the same way that you can use a sock in a different way if you really want to, you can use your problems to motivate you to make change. Those big feelings, when they come up for us and they're uncontrollable, are a sign that something isn't right in our worlds. Now, that might be grief. There might be nothing you can do about that. And if it's grief, then the only thing to do is face it head on and then put it in the bin when you're ready. And you're going to have to do that over and over. But if it's not grief, if you're facing other challenges in your life, having those big, overwhelming feelings, that big, messy bag of socks, might be time to get some extra help in. Someone to sort your socks out, or a therapist to help you sort your feelings out. It might be time to acknowledge that maybe there's changes you need to make in your life or with your lifestyle to help you manage your sock problem. It might be time to recognise that maybe they're all somebody else's socks and actually it's not up to you to deal with that, to talk to them about it. These big feelings, they come up 9 times out of 10 because we've ignored little feelings. The final thing to be aware of is that you are allowed to be messy. No one is perfect. No one is immune to emotion. We all have emotion. Some of us show it in different ways. You might use anger as your big messy. You might use anxiety and panic as your big messy. You might use crying. You might get hysterical. But we all have messy. It's part of who we are. And if we deal with the little feelings and acknowledge those and respect those, it's less often that we end up being as messy as we are. And if you're feeling messy right now because of a really, really shit year, let's be honest, and I don't just mean because of COVID, almost everyone I know has faced really big issues this year, myself included. It's okay. It's okay just to leave the mess for a bit. You don't have to tidy it right now. And if somebody else judges you on your messy, that says something about them and their discomfort with human emotion. That's a deficit in them, not a weakness in you. So if you feel like you need a cry or a shout, or you're having one of those days where you just want the world to stop, that's okay. That's okay. Do what you need to. We're all messy sometimes.